It's an annual event.
How do you feel it's gone? Do you think it's been a success?
I think it's been a success. I think it's been a marvellous success in the sense that the people there, there's been an excellent turnout. We can't complain about the turnout. I haven't talked to a great number of people, but the few people have come up and said what a marvellous day they've had. And it's like anything else, when a few people come up and say, no, they've really had a marvellous day. And these are people who come from Bradford, Nottingham, Liverpool. So that's very, very encouraging because we put in the northwest on the map again.
So obviously you've been planning this for a long time. After the fire at March, cancelling the march.
That's true. We, in actual fact, what we wanted to do was about 5 years ago there was a convention in Manchester, a one-day event, and I went along to that. And I wanted to know, well, why wasn't there a one-day event after that? And basically, because they have conventions at weekends, but they're quite expensive. And the one at the Ramada in Manchester was only a £5. And basically, the lad who organised it, Laurel Hardy, he lost about £800 on the deal, because it cost about £700 to hire the Ramada. So we thought, well, we're not going to go ahead. And then we came to the beer engine as part of our festivities, looked at the function room, could get it for free, and suddenly it was economically viable to have a day. And so we thought, well, what are we going to do with our £5? And what we decided to do was spend it on attractions to draw people from all over the northwest. Live sketches, rare films and rare beers.
What made you want to start the tent in the first place?
I think basically because I'm a socialist. I went to a tent meeting and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and when I was asked to start one by 2 or 3 people who've discovered I was in the Sons of the Desert, I wanted to share my enjoyment of Laurel Hardy with people. I'm a firm believer in, if people like Laurel Hardy, we want to share as much alike. I've met some collectors of Laurel Hardy memorabilia who keep it in their own room. I drag it out to exhibitions so people can see, people can share. It's a marvellous world of Laurel Hardy, and the more people who appreciate it, the greater enjoyment I get out of it. It's marvellous. Because I think we meet people of all types in that room. But the thing is, we've all got similar senses of humour, and that means whoever you can meet in that room, you know you're going to meet a friend, because you can have a laugh and a joke, and you know they're going to have that same sense of humour. I mean, like when Norman fell over doing the raffle, so like. But if things go wrong in a meeting, people are more tolerant. We were at the Marble Arch a couple of months ago, and we were showing the music box, and in the music box it's a film where they're carrying this piano up the steps, and the piano in one scene sort of like bounces down the steps with a great crash, and as it reached the bottom, the screen fell off the wall with a great crash. So we had to stop the projector, but the audience were that busy laughing and already still laughing. They didn't mind, they thought it was even funnier. What a great gag. And that's what you can do with our audience, is they're tolerant. They don't like incompetence, but they're quite tolerant if things go wrong. And I think that's what I like about it, because people, they come out to a Laurel Hardy meeting and they're after a good time to relax and enjoy it.
I mean, there's no other comedians that give the same feeling out as Laurel Hardy, is there?
No. I was being asked by an interviewer earlier today, and she said, why do you think Laurel Hardy lasts so long? And basically the implication, she said, was that one was a straight man and they weren't. They both share the gags equally, and they share them within the character. There's been no comedy act like Laurel Hardy, because if you think of Abbott and Costello, and even Morecambe and Wise, everybody liked Terry Morecambe, and Wise, although he was funny, was a little bit more of a straight man. He couldn't share the laughs, he couldn't get the laughs that Stan and Ollie could do equally. And the good thing about it was, once you've got that equal partnership, it didn't matter who got the laugh. if they thought a better laugh would come from James Finlayson getting the best line, they'd give it to Finn. If it was Mae Bush or whatever, they were more concerned with the gag. There were no egos involved. And Bill Cubian told me a marvellous story. Somebody went to the missionary went to the Brazilian jungle, came into the museum later on to tell him. And one of the things he got in the jungle was an old Super 8 projector and a couple of films. And he showed Laurel Hardy films to these Indian children, and they laughed because it didn't matter that it was a sort of science fiction setting to them. They could identify that little bit of Laurel and Hardy, that there, but for the grace of God, we could do that.
Well, neither of them were given deliberately funny situations. They just sort of naturally reacted to things around them.
Yeah, and they built it up. They could do one thing after another, and they took advantage of it. And again, another of the things I like about Stan and Ollie is, particularly, I've got an interview with Stan on tape, and John McCabe, the Professor John McCabe, is doing this great narration. But Stan's describing the making of the music box and various other films. And he's laughing all the way through the interview as he recalls. Because he's talking about the Battle of the Century, and he said, like, talk about this pie fight. And he said, well, if we're going to make a pie fight film, let's make the biggest one ever that nobody else will want to do a pie fight film against. And Stan's laughing about this, explaining how the various things. And he killed himself laughing that near the end of the film, he's just standing by this wagon, he says, and I'm just handing them out, for people to go and throw. And he thought that was really funny, and that's marvellous. He thought his own humour was funny. He thought Ollie was marvellous, and and he never wanted to define humour. He was just great. They were both eternally grateful that they were popular, but they never tried to analyse why they were popular. They just loved the fact that they did. There was no great analysis, no great educational theories. People tried to define, but they didn't worry about that.
I always think that I'm as well as Laurel Hardy, I'm a fan of Marx Brothers. And I've read lots of books which have tried to analyse why the funny, tearing down society and stuff. Yeah. And it kills the films for me. But Laurel and Hardy, you just laugh because of the situation.
Sometimes, I mean, you can analyse the films too much, but sometimes there's a scene in, just trying to think of the film, Poor Little Laughing Gravy, and there's gags in it, like Charlie Hall grabs the shotgun and says, "This is more than a man can stand." Walks off screen and shoots himself with the shotgun twice.
Which is very clever, that.
And it's a thing you don't notice. So I don't mind people analysing the films to point out more gags, but you can't analyse it to see there's in Private Eye they've got this Suits column. If anybody tried to write up why Laurel and Hardy are funny, that's where they go, because you just can't analyse it.
It's like saying, why is Way Out West so funny, and then why is Air Raid Warden so extremely unfunny?
Yeah. Well, that to some extent, you've got to know the method of their work.
Fox were just.
That's a lot of. Basically, once they'd left the Hal Rock Studios, they lost a lot of creative freedom, and it became a big production line. And you can't. It's a difference between craftsmanship and work of love. Why small cars, small production lines like Jowett and things, they put a lot of craftsmanship, you pay the money and you got the class. Otherwise comedy can be a big production line. It's like John Cleese doing 40 Towers. There's only 12 episodes, I mean, they rehashed so much you think there'd be some more. Well, what they did was small and said that's enough, we've got all the humour that we can milk from that situation. And that's what they do. Certainly you get people together like Dad's Army, and if you get the right environment, the right humour, and the right characters together, and the right blend, it works. Because the fun of Dad's Army was not just the originals, but this great supporting cast. And when we go in to watch a Laurel and Hardy movie, we've got these great repertory company behind them. James Finlayson, Mae Bush, Anita Garvin, Walter Long, Arthur Houseman the drunk. It's marvellous.